everything I've been through. I didn't expect I would go through that, and, you know, losing my children the way I lost them. I don't want to lose this baby as well. And this is really not a place to raise children, this camp.
Shamima Begum understood the dangers of raising a newborn in a refugee camp. It was in part why she wanted to return to the UK. This evening, reports that her fears had been realised. Medical sources told the BBC her child had caught a lung infection and died yesterday.
I think clearly it's a tragedy that any British citizen, and this young child was a British citizen, let's be clear, is left in a refugee camp and now has passed away. It's a tragedy not only for the family, but it raises serious questions about the handling of this case by the British government.
But the Home Secretary today insisted nothing could have been done to save Miss Begum's baby.
When we've had these instances of so many people leave as foreign fighters that join a terrorist organisation to go into a war zone where the Foreign Office has been clear for many years, there is no British consular presence, there's no way that anyone can be helped in any way, including innocent children. This is why it's so dangerous. I have nothing but sympathy for the children that have been dragged into this.
Sajid Javid last month decided he wanted to strip Shamima Begum of her citizenship, but he suggested her child would remain British. MPs from all sides of the House have previously expressed concern for Miss Begum, but there weren't many who were asking the UK to make a proactive intervention in Syria and take her and her baby out. As the last areas of IS territory fall, the humanitarian situation in the camps has worsened as refugees flee.
Past few weeks, we've been seeing thousands and thousands of people, mostly women and children, flee the ISIS-controlled area of eastern Syria, and they're ending up at displacement camps in Al-Hol. The health of these arrivals is incredibly poor, and we over the last few days alone, we've seen hundreds of cases of severe acute malnutrition. And unfortunately, we are also seeing an awful lot of children and infants die. In total now, there's been at least 100 deaths, and the vast majority were children, and at least 2/3 were babies and infants.
3 weeks ago, Newsnight spoke to Ilham Ahmed, the leader of the Syrian Kurds, who called for international help to run the camps.
We can't do it alone. It is very difficult. We don't have any support from anywhere, and we only have limited resources. If we are to keep them in the camps, it is hard to help them when we don't speak the same language. We need specialist help in order to try to rehabilitate them.
The Home Secretary faces a potential court battle over his decision to remove Miss Begum's citizenship, and this death will lead to further questions as to whether the UK government has got its policy right on returning IS fighters.
We did ask the Home Office for an interview, but they didn't want to come on the programme. I'm joined by Dal Babu, a former Metropolitan Police Chief Superintendent and friend of the Begum family. He has spoken to the family lawyer, Tasneem Akanji, earlier this evening. And Larisa Brown, who met Shamima and her son in the camp last month. And Larisa, let's start with you. You met her recently. What was her state of mind? How did you find her? What did you talk about?
Yeah, I met her 2 weeks ago, it was now. So Jera was about 6 days old. And she was in quite a different state of mind, I think, than the one that the state of mind she was 6 days earlier, where she'd been interviewed by the Times. She was feeling a bit more repentant. She was coughing a lot. She was unwell. She was worried about Jera. She was extremely cold. And I think she was just really desperate to get back to Britain. I think it had finally sunk in that she had been stripped of her citizenship, and that meant that she wasn't going back to the UK anytime soon.
And what were the conditions like in the camp? I mean, in that report we just heard about, 100 or so people dying, arriving there.
Yeah, I think it's 90 people have died in the last few months. I've been to a lot of the refugee camps across that region, and none of them actually have been quite so bad as the one that Shamima was staying in to begin with. The key difference is that they haven't got any form of heating, so they haven't got stoves inside the tents, whereas normally you'd have sort of refugees having a place that's warm that they can put the children around the fire. And so she was saying that at night, where the temperatures were 3-4 degrees, she was freezing cold. She was saying that she'd got ill and that she was worried about Jera becoming sick.
And she talked to you about wanting to bring him to come back to Britain?
Yes, she talked about how that he was everything to her, and the idea of losing him would be terrible, because that was all that she had left after losing her other 2 children and obviously becoming separated from her husband.
And Dal Babu, you know the family. How are you feeling tonight? How have you spoken to them? How are they feeling?
Well, the family are devastated. This was an entirely avoidable death of a British citizen. The family reached out to the Home Office and requested help. The Home Office sent a reply saying, you've come to the wrong department, you need to speak to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. There was no attempt to help by the Home Office. I think it's shocking how the Home Secretary has treated this situation. And I think what we have here now is a totally innocent child. Whatever you may think of Shamina's shortcomings, the mistakes she made as a 15-year-old child when she was groomed on our watch, when the police, the Tower Hamlets Council and the school failed to tell her family that she was being groomed. We failed to safeguard her, and now we've failed as a country to safeguard the child, a totally innocent British subject. It is shocking. You
talk about it being an avoidable death, but it's also, you know, it's clearly a tragic thing to happen, but, you know, it's the result of decisions that she made to go to a war zone. I mean, since 2011, the Foreign Office has been telling British citizens, do not go to Syria. She did that, and it was her decisions and the decisions of the, you know, the father of the child that led to this.
She was a 15-year-old child who went across there. She got married to a man many years older than her within days of arriving there. We knew, as a country, we knew she was being groomed, and we did not tell her family. And I think what we need to be looking at is that the innocent in this is Gerard, the child. You know, we had a responsibility, and when the family reached out, they wanted some support, some guidance, and what they got was a bureaucratic letter sent back saying, you've come to the Home Office, you need to go to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And I think what we had here is a shocking failure to safeguard that child. And I just think we need to revisit that. We need to ask, have we got the right policies about how we deal with these people who've gone to war-torn areas?
And Larisa, what do you think about the way this case has been responded to? She is the sort of most high profile of all the people that we've heard about who've gone to Syria. What do you think about the way we've all responded to it?
I don't think that we can blame the British government for the fact that Gerard's died. I think those 2 factors aren't linked, because I think whether Shamima had been stripped of her citizenship or not, she still would have been in this situation that she is today, and the situation in the camp wouldn't have changed, and she wouldn't be back in the UK, irrespective of Sajid Javid's decision. I personally do think that it is Britain's responsibility, though, in general, and that it's our responsibility to look after these people, and they are British citizens. And when I was there, I went to one of the camps that Shamima's now in, because she was moved. And there was one young girl there that was 13 when she went across with her family. And so she's now 17 years old. And I think people forget the fact that they're actually really young people that are the victims in all of this.
Dal Babu, what do you think should happen now?
Well, I think we really need to urgently review the decision that the Home Secretary's made with regard to Shamina's citizenship. There was a lot of false news about the fact that she had a passport. She was born in Bangladesh. She travelled there. Actually, when she was brainwashed on the internet, she stole her sister's passport, and she's never been to Bangladesh. She can't even speak Bengali. So this is an individual that was a normal British citizen who got groomed. You know, she didn't wear, you see her in niqab and wearing hijabs, she didn't wear that until she got groomed. So I think what we need to be looking at is that decision that was made by the Home Secretary of stripping her citizenship, because it's effectively made her stateless. Bangladesh has already said, we don't want her.
Dal Babu, Larisa, thank you so much for joining us.